Welcome, one and all, to JWC Livestream. That's Joe's Writers Club live stream. Today we're going to have a read from my book, Nidhogg Chronicles, Crusade of Shadows. Last week we read chapter 3, so I'm sure you would agree that chapter 4 would be next. So here we have it. This is chapter 4, titled Kayla, Nidhogg Chronicles, written by Richard Andrew Olkus. It's Nidhogg Chronicles, Crusade of Shadows. Nidhogg traveled on the astral firelight, finding herself sent to a place where caves met the sewer system. Police reports of some kind of thing living in the drainage basin had been too frequent. People missing without a trace became epidemic. It was way beyond being able to deflect or conceal, way past the collective's tolerance. And for once, Nidhogg didn't blame them. Incubus ravings from a bunch of college punks were one thing, but the loud and unsatisfied voices of half a dozen mothers was something else entirely. Such a bright exposure to the program's underbelly needed correcting, and of course, they sent Nidhogg to enforce their will. This was all she did lately, making her wonder if it was all she had to look forward to other than breeder's work. Leaving the saucer far behind, and this time headed in alone, Nidhogg confronted the open sewer pipe that led into the lair of a rake. Rakes were post-human and/or failed hybrids who the program allowed free range out in the deep woods or grasslands. Most of them feared light and sound so much that they seldom, if ever, ventured around other beings, knowing the presence of another living thing as an almost torturous experience. If they did not dwell in pits or caves in the earth, then the rake were known to inhabit sewers, so any junction where both connected was a likely place to find such monstrous beings. Humans thought them the stuff of nightmares, and Nidhogg understood why. There was nothing charming or civilized about a rake, which were in many ways worse than a mad beast when it came to aggression. Nidhogg could count on the rake she sought being difficult to track and very uncooperative, but she would try to deal with it without force at first. If it resisted, threatened, or tried to flee, then she would have to bring in a team. The stench of human waste, shower spill, and stagnant overflow mingled to become a repulsive cloud of wretchedness, enough to turn the guts of a diseased vulture. Into the foulness she went, using a respirator mask to help purify air for breathing. A loud knocking could be heard down the cylindrical tunnels, as if someone or something was tapping with a stone or hammer. It went on, growing louder and more centralized as Nidhogg moved further in. A terrible noise of shrieking, squealing, and hissing pealed through the local tunnels, echoing horridly as though a vault into hell had been breached. The force of voice and awfulness of its instinctual message made Nidhogg clutch her ears, wishing she could reach the rake with telepathy or neural engagement, but knowing that its own fitful state of being would not allow for such. There were ways of reaching it, but they involved pain and focus enough where you almost had to enter the creature's thoughts. The trip was not a pleasant one, but in fact a very terrible experience, proving that there was always someone who had it worse off than you, even a mid-stage hybrid like Nidhogg. At least she wasn't a rake. Maybe if she was, James's spinelessness might be easier to justify. The rake's mind brushed against her own, and at once the hideous sounds and repeated striking ceased. A dreadful silence descended, with only the sounds of running water playing in a low white noise. Whispers of something long dead haunted the native zero. Shadows danced from blackness to blackness, ominous, unsettling. Unseen eyes regarded her casually from their broken subspace. Spirits trapped, locked out, emitting envious vibes suggesting covetous daydreams in the twilight of semi-consciousness. That was when Nidhogg sensed it, perceiving the mental contact. A familiar voice penetrated Nidhogg's psychic threshold. She knew at once who it was. Nidhogg? So nice to meet you here under these circumstances. It's been so long. Kayla. Nidhogg remembered her well. They had been friendly in the beginning, but the collective saw that and came between them, not wishing their contact to become habitual. Was it because they were so alike, or that neither one of them were truly devoted to the program? In any case, Nidhogg felt surprised to find Kayla here in this dark, dingy sewer. Surprise was not a dish Nidhogg relished, but she was not offended by the encounter. Rather, there was a part of her that wanted to reconnect with Kayla. Things had been so heavy lately, and Kayla was fun. She smiled and thought, projecting a reflected memory of herself in a mirror so that Kayla's stronger faculty with telepathy would benefit from it. Nidhogg spoke in thought, knowing that Kayla would hear. Kayla, I didn't expect to find you here. No mention of it in my log. The question lay under the rock of her pretense, waiting for a hand to flip it and see what mysteries slithered from beneath. You don't need to fear the collective hearing us. I've retrieved a device from Mars. Keeps us hidden from their telepathic union. They will blame it on a ship that's traveling through the solar system right now, so we have cover. It is under such circumstances that we may speak about the future. The future? What the hell did she mean by that? Nidhogg felt amusement touch her heart, mingled with fear. No one could hide from the collective. It was unheard of, and made Nidhogg wonder what state of mind Kayla was in to even say such a thing. Nidhogg's voice babbled excitingly, being unable to resist Kayla's adventurous nonsense any longer. All right, Kayla. What the hell are you going on about? Device from Mars? Am I to take it that you have cultured more plants from that special garden? You sound bent to me. Kayla stepped out from behind a masonry facade, standing in a rubberized robe. It was like a voluminous rain jacket, but its color shifted several times as Kayla strode toward her. The rake shrieked like a wounded animal. Its echoes passed over and rang against Mason, sounding like a lost soul in an abyssal limbo. You won't believe me tonight, but when they don't notice, you will believe me tomorrow. But none of that matters right now. I can get you this stuff, Nidhogg, this stuff from Mars. It's a xeno-psychedelic from a Martian crypt. I call it Ish-Target. It will really hit the spot. It'll make a difference. It is something we can take, and once we have it, they can't take it back. They can't take it back. The collective can't do anything about it. Nidhogg heard a shrillness in Kayla's inner voice. The visions of a creamy red sky gave way to suited travelers on another world. 3 distant towers flew past below the vision's upper altitude as the craft descended in a final approach. They touched down at a site miles to the south of those precisely laid out geodetic structures. Kayla's memories became a telepathic theater in which Nidhogg sat transfixed, getting claustrophobic flashes from the shared sensorium. Waves of danger and elder hostility washed over them as Kayla relived what was being disclosed to Nidhogg for the first time. Martian bones lay on archaic megalithic stone. The dust of flesh fluttered like ash in a storm wind. Kayla scooped up several containers of this grave dust and then secreted these away as specimens of a different sort altogether. Somehow this deception must have worked, and in shared memory, the shift of this target hit Kayla's blood and brought a kind of unease upon Nidhogg, a sense of impending doom the likes of which she had never previously known. Ish-Target, what the hell is it? Kayla replied as if Nidhogg were playing stupid. It's the dust from a million-year-old mummy on Mars. You smoke it. I'm having it synthesized, but we don't know what that will do yet. Right now, it's inhaled,
then your third eye will expand and flare up. Whatever they were into a million years ago was heavy like stellar iron. I'm talking extinction level here, Nidhogg. Everything is better for me now. Its effects are cumulative. My own clinical trial is still in its first stages, but the telepathic potential we've already measured indicates substantial advances. It's constructively mutating the DNA, forcing a hyperstate of controlled evolution.
Nidhogg shook her head, smiling, fighting at the fascination that threatened to draw her into reckless action.
This sounds crazy, Kayla, and yet I find myself curious. But how do I know you're not just unstable and raving right now? The whole thing seems pretty warped to me. Where did you get the idea of smoking grave dust?
Kayla's ecstatic joy was such that Nidhogg felt its telepathic contact as a shared hallucination disjointed in time.
I get it. It seems crazy. Just hear me out. I was on a dig on Mars, something you're not supposed to know about, so don't think about it any more often than you have to. Anyway, I'm working off-world, and while I'm on Mars, I sometimes collect artifacts, samples, and specimens for study. Bubbles does the collective's bidding. That's what he lives for, remember?
Nidhogg nodded to acknowledge the question affirmatively, remembering Kayla's own version of the great controller, who she nicknamed Bubbles, supposedly due to his almost drowning in a chemical bath and having to be fished out of a soiled vat. Nidhogg doubted that Bubbles appreciated that kind of peer bonding, although it made her smile inwardly to be reminded of it. Kayla continued in a tone overflowing with humor.
We came across this slab. It was like some kind of ruby tablet thing with etched letters that we had to decipher. Did it on the sly. Our resources on that language were classified, so that means the collective doesn't want us to know what they say. My curiosity got the better of me. I had no choice but to explore this.
Nidhogg watched as Kayla lifted a hand in a gesture calling for silence. She then pulled back her hood, revealing a charged bindi embedded in a telepathic mask, which transposed it into place. Kayla's psychic power came in a rushing wave, so that its force fell as a downpour of mental energy, chill and wild to the touch. Nidhogg didn't remember her ever being so psychokinetically strong. A blast of stink preceded the rake, its ghastly inhalations having been suppressed in order to gain an advantage concerning a stealthy approach. In the local telepathic field amplified by Kayla, they both caught violent intentions, with other rapine premeditations not even worth considering. Just as the creature was about to lunge at them, Kayla flung back the coat, drew a disintegrator, took aim, and discharged the weapon. The rake howled as it burst into flames. The sounds of a cooked implosion turned wet, with only sizzling flesh and murmuring sewage left to challenge the fading echo. As the mask disappeared from Kayla's face, her features leapt out, with only the dimming bindi to evidence its recent memory. Kayla's bald head was shapely as ever, with lips and jaw to match one of the Shambhalan heritage, yet dominated by a subterranean pallor not unlike Nidhogg's flesh tone. She grinned at Nidhogg, her features beautifully lit by filthy firelight.
Well, so much for him.
Kayla's voice came confident and musical, something to have transcended any fear of the collective's knowing or caring what they were about to do.
Anyway, as I was saying, the translation revealed that the ancients of Mars played with some kind of fungus they imported from an asteroid they were mining, and that the properties of this xenofungus had infiltrated everything. Those who imbibed, consumed, or smoked the dried bits of this began to see the inner starlight, or some such poetic drift. And this is the reason for the why. Why do it? Inspiration, transformation, and a reformation of mind, something that may help the soul endure being incarcerated in crude matter.
Kayla smiled brightly and placed a tender hand on Nidhogg's robed shoulder.
Okay, let's get out of this scum hole so you can come with me to Mars. We have to score some target at once, since I'm fresh out, and that simply won't do. It just won't do at all. So that was Nidhogg Chronicles, Crusade of Shadows by Richard Andrew Olkus. That was chapter 4, entitled Kayla. I've been reading this book. You know, we have like people miss sometimes for vacations and other stuff like that. And it's good to get a read. I started Babbletron and then I picked this one up. I'm going to try to read this one straight through. We'll see how long it takes. It's not like super beefy, so I think it should happen by the end of the year. And then we'll circle back to Babbletron, you know? So we have plenty of stuff like that to do. I hope you guys dig it. I love my book, Nidhogg Chronicles. It was so fun to write. It's for sale on Amazon. If you like what you see, just type in Nidhogg Chronicles Crusade of Shadows, and it should pop up. Got a couple books on there. This has been JWC Livestream. That's a book read of Nidhogg Chronicles for Joe's Writers Club Livestream. Head over to JWC, that's joeswritersclub.com, and check out our author bios, our blogs. Head over to joeswriters.club, sign up for our forums. Check out our social media, you know, the usuals, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And most importantly, head over to YouTube, like and subscribe, and please share to anyone who you think would like the content. We're all independent authors here, and we're all trying to help people become different writers. You got to make yourself a better writer, but being a different writer sometimes makes all the difference, and it's good to have a writing community to help you do that. And thanks a lot for listening, and we'll see you again real soon. Stay creative, folks.